Well, it's 6:01, so we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll start with the land acknowledgement. And we acknowledge that we live, work, and gather on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, specifically the Temiskaming First Nation, and we recognize the presence of the Temiskaming First Nation in our community since time immemorial, and honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift their voice and values. And another thing I want to do tonight too is to have everybody stand up and observe a minute's silence in honor of all those that have lost their lives in the war in Ukraine there. So I wouldn't mind if everybody would stand and we'll just have a minute's silence, please. Thank you very much. It's a senseless war, and a lot of people are losing their lives needlessly in that war there. So we'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:03, and I'll ask the clerk for the roll call, please.
Good evening, Your Worship. All members are present with the exception of Councillor Foley.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is a review of revisions or deletions to the agenda. Has anybody got anything they need to add or delete from the agenda at this point? Hearing and seeing nothing, I've got a motion be resolved that City Council approves the agenda as printed. Moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor MacArthur. So, all in favor? That is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature tonight? Seeing and hearing none. Item number 6 is a review and adoption of the council minutes. And I've got a motion be it resolved the City Council approves the following minutes as printed. A, the regular meeting of council that was held back on March the 1st, 2022. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that motion? Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor Whalen. So, all in favor? That is carried. Item 7 is the public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and other statutes. And tonight we're calling the meeting regarding a zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 2022-02. The owner is Anthony Jerlink. The applicant is Danielle Perez Professional Corporation, operate as MRKT Law, and the subject land is 166 Armstrong Street, M23NB, Lot 27, parcel 1978 NND. And the purpose of the application is to add an exception to the medium-density residential R3 zoning of the property to add a business, professional, or administrative office as a permitted use on the property. So it's for actually, this meeting will serve 2 purposes. First, to present to the council and the public the details and the background to the proposed amendment, and second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before decisions made by council. So I now declare this meeting to be an open public meeting pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act and the zoning and bylaw amendments, as I say, ZBA 2022-02. So, Jennifer, you're up.
Thank you. Okay, so the purpose of this application is to rezone the property at 166 Armstrong Street North, which is a former running link location, from medium density residential or R3 to R3 with an exception to add that business, professional, or administrative office as a permitted use on the property. So the applicant is the owner of MRKT Law, and they are currently in the process of purchasing the property in order to expand their business. Okay, so this is a map showing the location of the property. It's just across the bridge on the west side of Armstrong Street. It's just to the south of Pine Avenue West. And then an aerial view of the same neighborhood. So this specific section is primarily residential, but there are some commercial businesses located in the next block and then further to the north along Armstrong Street as well. So these photos were taken during a site visit to the property. The one on the left is of the front of the building, and it was taken from across Armstrong Street. And the one on the right was taken from the laneway that runs behind the property. And then the next one here, I just included this picture from the Google Street View, as the details can be difficult to see with so much snow on the ground. The Street View imagery in this location is dated May 2018, and unfortunately there is no Street View imagery from the back lanes. So the property is designated mixed-use areas in the city's official plan, and the designation permits a mix of industrial, commercial, and institutional uses, associated accessory uses, and public service facilities and residential uses compatible with a mixed-use area. The official plan also requires that all uses in the mixed-use area designation be appropriately zoned. Okay, so as previously mentioned, the property is currently zoned R3, and the applicant is seeking a site-specific exception to allow a business, professional, or administrative office on the property. So the definition of this use that's provided in the zoning bylaw is copied on the slide. I won't read it for you. Upon review of the application, it was also determined that a reduction to the minimum driveway width as required in the zoning bylaw will also be needed. The zoning bylaw requires 6 meters for a driveway accessing a parking area, while the driveway on the subject property is 3 meters wide. The building has also previously contained commercial uses in a portion of the main floor, as well as residential uses on the main floor and the upper floor. Okay, so this slide just provides an overview of the on-site parking requirements as set out in the zoning bylaw in relation to the subject property. The zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 1 parking space for every 50 square meters of commercial or office floor space and 1 parking space per residential unit. The minimum parking space dimensions are 3 meters by 6 meters, and the minimum width of a driveway accessing a parking area is 6 meters. Based on the sketch that was submitted with the application, the main floor of the existing building is 160 square meters, and there is 1 residential unit on the upper floor, which means that 5 parking spaces are required to be provided on site. There's approximately 20 meters between the rear of the building and the rear property line, which means that 6 parking spaces could be accommodated on the property. The applicant indicated that the existing detached garage on the south side of the building will be removed in order to allow access for parking from Armstrong Street to the rear of the building. Because the city does not maintain the rear laneway, access to the parking area only from the laneway will not be permitted, so that's the reason that the garage is going to be removed. And I spoke about the driveway width on the previous slide. It's been included there at the bottom. So notice of the public hearing was advertised in the Temiskaming Speaker beginning on February 23rd in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. The application has also been circulated to city staff, and no concerns or objections have been received. No comments or concerns have been received from external agencies or members of the public leading up to this meeting, and the next steps for the application will be for council to consider the administrative report, planning report, and draft bylaw at the April 4th meeting.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions or comments from the applicant? The applicant's online as well, I believe, so yes.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm joining you from Florida, so I apologize for people who are out in the snow. Jennifer, thank you for that overview. I think she addressed most of the points and concerns. I started we call it market law, in 2018. We specialize in corporate and tax matters, and since starting, we've seen the practice grow significantly. I'm currently working with Baker Tilly, which is a accounting firm from Sudbury, and they've reached out to work in association with them. So we anticipate that we will need more space in the near future. Looking in town, there's not a lot of commercial space available. We feel that this property would be suitable, and it's sort of already set up as a commerce. There's no kitchen, so it would be hard to, flip it as a residential use. So we think it's suitable, other than the lack of parking. The garage is in a pretty bad shape, so I think putting it down would solve that and help with parking. And once we have parking, we believe that the use will be low impact on the neighbors. It would only be from 9 to 5. So overall, I think on their neighborhood, it should have no adverse impacts. But I'm open to answer questions or comments or.
Okay, thank you very much, Danielle. Anthony, did you have anything you wanted to add at all, or? You're good there. So I don't know if any members of the public, unless there's somebody online, I'll ask whether anybody online has a question at all at this point. And any questions from council, comments? So pretty straightforward. So I guess if there's no questions for you, Danielle, between Jennifer and you've done an excellent job there, so thank you. I'll now declare this portion of the public meeting to be closed and advise the council will give due consideration to Jennifer's presentation. And an admin report will probably come back at the next council meeting there, so hopefully everything will go through it no problem. So thank you very much for attending and enjoy your holiday. So. Okay, moving on. Item number 8, the first question and answer period. Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Mayor Kidd. We did receive 2 questions via email prior to the meeting from Robert Ritchie. So the first question is, could the mayor please explain the need for closed sessions at every council meeting? And the second question is, why are there no public attendees on the transit committee? Because the transit is used by the public.
Okay, first question, I guess, so there's a number of things that we have to deal with in a closed session. I guess we have to deal with any kind of legal issues in a closed session that can't be done in public. Another thing is any sale of or purchase of municipal property. That has to be dealt with in a closed session as well. And any personnel matters within our staff and positions and that. So quite often we're looking at restructuring how our workforce works there, and that has to be discussed in a closed session as well. So, I mean, it's when things come up, we try and deal with it as quick as possible in the next council meeting, and that just seems to be happening that we've had a number of closed sessions lately, but under normal circumstances, if there's not a lot of changes, there wouldn't be any closed session meeting. So, that's the reason why we have the closed session. The other one, as far as the transit committee, it's was set up way back when we set the transit committee up between Cobalt and Hillsbury, that we would have 2 reps from each of the 2 municipalities. And they are open public meetings, so if people in the public want to come and attend the meetings, they can attend the meetings as well. And Chris is the official secretary for the transit meeting, and Mike's the chair, so I'll let Mike comment as well.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have a questionnaire that comes out throughout the year, and the public answer it. We have a lot of people that will give their opinions on this stop or not that stop, and we're always open to any kind of a question or a new stop or a new any new what do you call it, the $7,000 bus stops. We add, we take away. So really, we are there running it for the city, Temiskaming Shores, and the town of Cobalt. But the public is more than welcome to submit a letter or an email to us, and we definitely address it and get back to them. So I think that we do listen to the public, and we just try our best to let them know about our operation.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully that answers your question, Mr. Ritchie. And any other questions at this point from the public? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the presentations. And tonight we have Jeremy Latour, our CET engineering technologist. We're going to discuss and sort of give you a highlight of the asset management plan phase 1. So, Jeremy, you're on.
Okay, well, thank you and good evening, everybody. Today I'll be presenting an updated version of our asset management plan that Council approved last year in the spring. But before we get into the PowerPoint presentation, I'm just going to explain why an update is needed at this point, just to give you a bit of background on how that came about. And then I'll go through the highlights of the updates within a document. I won't go through the actual document itself, but I will highlight everything in the PowerPoint. Just to note that all of the content that got approved last year within the document hasn't changed, except for the amounts and dollar values, which I readjusted, and I'm going to mention that later on as well. So everything that is updated at this point is additional information, and then I'll explain as to what that is. And at the end, if time permits, I'm gonna share with you where we are with our new asset management software that we purchased last spring, and just maybe get some feedback on that as well. Okay, last June, I participated in a webinar that was hosted by consultants, asset management consultants, mostly from down south. Other municipalities, again, mostly from down south, also attended to the webinar. And the idea behind that was to maybe answer questions that other municipalities had concerning the new regulation around asset management. Since it was a pretty brief description within the regulation, and I also had questions myself. So the goal with that was to basically just share comments and see where everybody stands on their end, and then get feedback from that. At the end of it, and then several weeks afterwards, after I had other discussions with other municipalities, I then came to a conclusion that some content within the document was missing, some of which I already had in the background. I just didn't include it within the document, and then some things are completely new. And again, this is just to meet compliance. This determination was made by myself. It has not been reviewed by the ministry, so I just wanted to make that clear. And this is where we are now. So, as far as the changes within the document, I did some minor and some major changes. Part of the minor changes is the overall page design. I kind of just re-edited the footer and the header as well, and added some more illustrations within the document. And of course, I updated the values and the amounts of each category as of February of this year. So that's why you'll see a change in figures. All of the changes that I'll be listing from this point on applies to all four categories. So within the PowerPoint presentation, I used our water system category as an example, but basically it's that times 4 to apply to other categories within the document. So one of the major changes that was added, which was calculated in the background but now is more visual within the document, is our risk and critical analysis. And basically what this tells you is that when we look at level of risk for our assets, we both look at probability and the consequence of failure for each type. And then later on, I'll show you how that's calculated. So basically what I've done is I included 2 tables within the document that shows you both, kilometers and dollar amounts where things are. So basically what you want to achieve is to have more, in this case, water mains in the green section, and of course not in the red section. In addition to that, I also, this was also calculated in the background, which is now included within the document, and this is your life cycle activities, more specifically towards your forecast cost. Within the regulation, they did specify a forecast of 10 years. So this is what you see now is from 2022 to 2032. And because this reflects on phase 1, that's why it's only up to 32 at this point. But basically what this chart tells you is the overall amount that the city would need to invest in order to keep up with the demand in terms of failures within the system. So it is broken down into several categories. Just a quick note on the water distribution operation side of things and treatment side of things, administration, of course. Those are based on a previous 10-year average, because of course it's hard to determine that for the next 10 years, but that gives you a pretty good approximate as to what it could look like. As far as your capital needs, those are based on age. So that as soon as an asset surpasses its age limit, it then gets reflected in this chart. So that's why you see your capital needs are different for each year. That's because that's the summary of each category that's per year. To aid to that chart, there's also life cycle activity interventions that we currently do and we did in the past as well. It's just it's illustrated within the document as to what takes place. There's two different approaches to this chart. I chose to go with this particular route, where if an asset is within a certain age and a condition score, it then falls into a category. So depending on what that number is, it's either in maintenance, repair, or replacement, which justifies the operational needs at that point. And then your blue line basically is your deterioration rate, which in this case is for water mains. In addition to our condition score table, I now included a pie chart to further break that down. So basically, it gives you a bit more visual aid on because at the end of the day, people might not be satisfied with one particular number. So I have this included just to better reflect the overall condition of our systems. Okay, so this is new. This was also calculated in the background, but was never really incorporated within a document. These particular measures are required within the regulation after some determination were made with several questions that I had in June. So this is the actual format that they requested. So you'll notice within the document that you'll have 4 separate tables with all different performance measures that are or need to be recorded. This is the example for water. So in this case, you have 4 that need to be required. And just to run through them real quick. So I did a 3-year example. So you need to know the amount of, the percentage of the municipal water system that's actually connected within the city itself. So how many connection lines there is in comparison to the overall amount of properties that we have. And then our boil water advisories, how many are issued per year in comparison to our connections. And then same thing with our water main breaks and how many we have per year in comparison to how many connections we actually have. Skip again, yep. Yeah, you're going backwards. There should be another, there you go, okay. So I did do some minor changes within the document. I did merge some sections with other ones just to make it simpler to read and understand because I have to add more additional information, so it kind of made it easier that way. One thing you'll notice, and again, this was also done in the background, which I had before, but now is incorporated within it. So basically, this is our condition rating index tables, which I use to determine a condition score. So you'll see here that anything that falls between a margin of 20%, it then moves to another score. And then based on that, it then gets thrown into a category, intervention category, whether it needs new construction or rehab or resurfacing or that matter. This wasn't required. I took this approach because I thought it might be a benefit to everybody to have more of a visual aid to what a condition scores actually look like. So here, as an example, I did roads and bridges. So you'll notice that Georgina, which we paved last year, has a condition of excellent or good, so therefore it'd be 4 or 5. And then fair would be Dawson Point at this point, and then Albert Street would be poor or failure as of today. And same thing with our bridges. So I used Unit Park, Armstrong, and First Brook as an example. Okay, and just to further explain the methodology in risk, so each category has their own risk assessment. And this is what you see here. So basically, when you look at probability, it's based on condition, which is then based on age. So therefore, the older the infrastructure is, the more likely that something is willing to fail, or possible or unlikely or rare. So this is what you see here. I do have weighted average. I just want to point that out, that our probability is weighted at 80% and our consequence is at 20%. As far as our consequence of failure, because it's mostly piping, I went based on diameter to determine that. So basically, the bigger the pipe is, the more severe the consequence might be. In addition, in Appendix B, I did add additional maps to, again, better illustrate our system. So you'll notice that there's 4 additional maps at the end, which basically shows you our infrastructure. So you'll have both water, sewer, and our storm system as well. As far as roads, it's our classification system. Okay. So that will conclude the update for the document itself. Would there be any questions at this point? Perfect. So I'll move on. Today, I just want to give you a quick update on where we are with our asset management software. We made some pretty good progress within it. We're just at about a year now of incorporating that within our staff and how we use it within the city. So what I'll show you today is basically 2 examples of what the potential of that software can be. The first example here, which is a dashboard, we have one for each category now, so water, sanitary, storm, and roads. As we move forward, we'll have more as well to reflect on phase 2, which incorporates all of the recreational facilities, parks, fleet, and so on. But just to show you this real quick, so basically what this allows is that it shows staff and public as well as to what we actually have within the system. So these charts basically just categorizes the networks based on whether it's material, size, installation dates, and then your risk assessments and different pie charts, and then your condition scores based on a table. So you can see what your deterioration rate would be over the years, and other information that might be useful to staff as well to, again, aid with maybe capital projects or operational projects. In addition to dashboards, I'm going to say the biggest component to our software is now staff have access to live mapping for our infrastructure. And this is our example here that we currently use and have been using now for several months. So just to show you real quick as to what this is. So this would be in Liskeard. I believe this is Fair Avenue. So what this allows staff to view, now that we have imagery and behind it and everything is GPS, they're able to better locate things within the field, especially if it's wintertime. Sometimes it's very hard to locate structures. So this is just a very good aid for them to have. In addition to have this map, as soon as you click on a particular asset, it also prompts the information on the top left as far as the installation date, direction of flow, diameter, size, material and length, and all that sorts. And this basically applies to everything else. And as we move forward, more asset categories are going to be added to this to again better reflect phase 2, which incorporates everything else within the city as well. And that will conclude that presentation. Any questions on that?
Thank you, Jeremy. So questions, comments? So, Councilor Whalen.
Thanks, Jeremy. When you, in the asset management software, are the classifications all preloaded, or can we create something? And the reason I'm asking is if we decided to make a catalog of all of our infrastructure that's impacted by resource extraction, could we do that, or?
Yes.
Oh, we could. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Just in that first couple charts there where you showed what we'd have to spend in order to keep our infrastructure up to out of the red sort of thing. If we don't invest that money, it just doesn't go way up.
Yeah,
2023.
it can be very terrifying. So.
If we don't do anything in 2023, we're good in 2024. We don't eliminate all the capital costs that should have been spent the year before.
And I guess that's the reality of it. So. Yeah.
So okay. No, there's lots of information there, lots of time that you put in inputting all that information to have that all available for everybody. And I mean, it spells out every valve, every piece of pipe, and it's all there. So it's an excellent resource there. And I think when we get around to putting for grants or we're talking to the government there, we've got that information at our fingertips. So that's great. So thank you very much, Jeremy.
Perfect.
Appreciate all your work. Councilor Jelly.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeremy. It's just, we also got to know this is the second time Jeremy's presented that to some of this to the Public Works Committee. And it's great to note the great job that Jeremy has done. I think we're probably one of the only cities or towns of our size that are this far advanced with the plan. So it's great work.
You ought to let Jeremy know that Doug was praising him on the way out. So, okay, any other questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to the communications. 10A is a letter from Denny Lacroix, the president of the Hillbury Golf Club, and it's regarding the Hillbury Golf Club's permit request received on March the 1st, 2022. It's referred to the Protection of the Person and Property Committee and the Corporate Services Committee. 10B is a letter from Kimberly Kitteringham, City Clerk for the City of Markham, regarding a resolution to dissolve the Ontario Land Tribunal. And that was received on March the 1st for information. 10C is a letter from the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry regarding the inspection of the 2022-2023 annual work schedule for the Temiskaming Forest, and that's received on March the 7th for information. 10D is a letter from Claire Hendricks, Executive Director for the Temiskaming Foundation, regarding the Endowment Fund report for the year ending December 31st, 2021, and that was received on March the 8th for information. And lastly, from the town of Blue Mountains, a resolution regarding the Ontario Housing Affordability Task Force report. The letter is received on March the 7th for information. So that's all the correspondence we received. I got a motion to be resolved. The City Council agrees to deal with communication items 10A through 10E according to the agenda references. Moved by Councillor MacArthur, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? Anyone want brought back at all? All in favor of this motion? That will be passed. Item number 11 is committees of council, the community and regional. I got a motion be resolved the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the committee of adjustment meeting held on November the 24th, 2021, and again on January the 26th, 2022. B, the minutes of the climate change committee meeting held on February the 8th, 2022. C is the minutes of the District of Temiskaming Social Services Administration Board meeting held on January the 19th and again on February the 3rd, 2022. Excuse me. And D, the minutes of the Temiskaming Transit Committee meeting held on January the 31st, 2022. So we're moving a second for that motion. Councillor Ferrier, seconded by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. Item number 12 is committees of council, internal departments. I got a motion to be resolved the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the building maintenance committee meeting held on February the 16th, 2022. B is the minutes of the corporate services committee meeting held on February the 11th and again on February the 16th, 2022. And C is the minutes of the public works committee meeting held on February the 10th and again on February the 16th. So we're moving a second for that motion. Councillor MacArthur. Seconded by Councillor Ferrier. Any comments? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. On item B, the Corporate Services Committee meeting of February 16th, it shows that we dealt with 2 items in closed session. I believe we dealt with Public Works, and then we adjourned because we asked all the staff to leave, so we had nobody there to record the minutes. So I believe we adjourned after Public Works, not after.
Yeah, just after the first item or business, yes. Yeah, that's true.
So the resolutions and that the timing is all out of whack, and we did not deal with item B during the meeting.
No, we actually adjourned that meeting after the first item, went back out of close and closed off the meeting, and then we just had a little general discussion amongst the 3 of us at that time. So we'll make those changes to that set of minutes. So thank you, sir. Any other comments? All in favor of this motion? That is carried. Reports by members of council. So anybody reports tonight? Councillor Jelly.
Just quickly, and I'm sure everyone has heard that we lost a very prominent member of our community, Clifford Hallsworth. Cliff was an OPP officer for years and fortunately enjoyed 26, I believe, years of retirement. Certainly going to be missed in the area. He's been here for a long time. I always enjoyed working with Cliff, and he's a #1 police officer and very concerned about his community. So our condolences to his family.
Thank you, sir. Other reports? Just wanted to outline the public message tonight, as well as I know Steve was with me this afternoon in Logan and attended a virtual meeting with Enbridge Gas, and along with the Mayor of Cobalt and some other staff from Cobalt there. What's actually happening, they're going to do some inspections and maybe possibly do some repairs to the natural gas line coming into Hillbury by the South Wabi River, and change the valve there as well. So what they're going to do is actually bring in transport loads of pressurized natural gas from Timmins, set them up down adjacent to the Cobalt Arena in Hillbury, and be able to pressurize the system from Cobalt back through North Cobalt and back through Hillbury. They're going to start this whole process in sometime next week when they have to reduce down the pressure for this line coming into Hillbury there. So just so the public knows, when you see transport loads of natural gas coming in, that's where they're coming into, and they may use as many as three tanker loads a day when they're in the colder days, and then once the summer comes along, they may be down just one tanker load a day that's going to be pressurized and pushed into the system from the Cobalt Arena. So just if the public asks questions, that's what's going on. time. They're looking at what the actual cover is where that pipe goes under the river on the South Wabi out on, which road is it? North Landing Road, yes, sorry. So just the other side of the rapids there. So if people ask you, that's what's going on, and hopefully they didn't really give a timeline as to whether it was going to take a month or whether it was going to take 3 or 4 months. So they'll see when they start digging things up there. So, Councillor MacArthur.
Yes, Mayor, I think it would be a very good idea if the local media also did a few interviews and wrote up a nice story about it and let the taxpayers know exactly what's going on. I'm sure they'll jump on that story.
Yeah, Enbridge is going to put out press releases. They're also going to work with Logan to use our Facebook and different social services there or whatever to get the information out and do the same thing with the representative from Cobalt as well. So hopefully we can get as much information out as possible. So the main concern with the tankers down there was as far as security and make sure there wasn't any vandalism down there, but they are enclosed tankers with. And it's if they have to put in security staff, they'll do that. If they have to do some fencing around the tankers, they'll do that as well. So it's just doing preventative maintenance rather than see something below in the future. So that's a good thing. So any other reports? So if not, we'll move on to notice of motions. We got notice of motions tonight. If not, we'll move right into the new business. 15A is a notice of motion for the draft regulation under the Fire Protection and Prevention Act 1997 regarding the mandatory firefighter certification. That motion was put forward by Councillor Doug Jelly. Resolution number 2022-100, and I'll read the motion. Whereas the Ministry of the Solicitor General posted a draft regulation under the Fire Protection and Prevention Act 1997 (FPPA) concerning mandatory firefighter certification on January the 28th, 2022, with a 30-day comment period. And whereas the ministry has stated the goal of the regulation is to develop a standardized approach to firefighting training, which protects firefighters and increases public safety while providing flexibility for the local needs and service levels of municipalities across Ontario. And whereas the ministry has also stated that the Office of the Fire Marshal will offer certification to the minimum standard at no charge. And whereas standardized firefighter training already exists in municipal fire services across Ontario. And whereas the real outcome of the proposed regulation is the addition of unnecessary testing that will impact the recruitment and retention of volunteer firefighters in rural and northern communities. And whereas neither the Ministry of the Solicitor General nor the Office of the Fire Marshal have provided details or a plan on how they are going to support municipalities achieve a compliance with the proposed regulation. And whereas the proposed regulation is another form of downloading from the province onto small rural and northern municipalities, as the Office of the Fire Marshal should always be responsible to support and evaluate individual fire departments and their training requirements through the local fire protection advisors. And whereas the ministry has provided insufficient time for meaningful consultation with all the stakeholders affected by the proposed regulation. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Temiskaming Stores hereby petitions the Ministry of the Solicitor General to 1, extend the consultation period by 2 months to April 30th, 2022, and 2, consider an accreditation program delivered to the Office of the Fire Marshal instead of an unnecessary testing program that does not achieve the stated goal of protecting firefighters and increasing public safety. So that's the motion. Councillor Jelly, I'll move that motion. Seconded by Councillor Ferrier. Any comments, discussion? All in favor? That is carried. 15B is January to February 2022 year-to-date capital finance report, and the motion reads, be resolved the Council of the City of Temiskaming Stores hereby acknowledge receipt of the January to February 2022 year-to-date capital finance reports for information purposes. So we're mover and seconder. So Councillor Hewitt, you want to make that motion? Sure. Seconded by Councillor MacArthur. Any comments on that report? All in favor? That is carried. Treasurer's 2021 Statement of Remuneration. And the motion reads, whereas Section 284/1 of the Municipal Act 2001 states that the Treasurer of a municipality shall in each year on or before March 31st provide to the Council of the municipality an itemized statement of remuneration and expenses paid in the previous year to each member of Council and to each person other than a member of Council appointed by the municipality to serve as a member of any body, including a local board, in respect to his or her services as a member of the body. Now therefore be resolved that Council acknowledge receipt of the 2021 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses as submitted by the Treasurer, and a copy of the statement be posted on the city's website and advertised in the city bulletin. So, mover and seconder for that motion, Councillor LaFerrier, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That would be carried. 15D is Memo 010-2022 CS, the deeming bylaw for Paquette, 712 Rourke Avenue, Plan M54NB, Lot 99, Parcel 2240 SST. And the motion reads, whereas the owners of 712 Rourke Avenue in Hillbury would like to merge lots on title to the adoption of a deeming bylaw in compliance with the Planning Act in order to create one property with one roll number. And whereas the owners have acknowledged that registration of the pending deeming bylaw on title will be at their expense. Now therefore be resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Stores hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to deem Plan M54NB, Lot 99, Parcel 2240 SST, to no longer be lots on a plan of subdivision, and further that Council hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary deeming bylaw for consideration at the March 15, 2020 regular Council meeting. So we're moving and seconding for that motion. Councillor Whalen, seconded by Councillor Ferrier. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15E is Administrative Report CS 012-2022, the Part Lot Control Exemption for 237-3775 Ontario Incorporated. And I motion be resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 012-2022, and the Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to grant an exemption to the part lot control provisions of the Planning Act on the lands described as part of PIN 61339-0756, part of Block C, Plan M79NB, Parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Plan 54R6262, and part of PIN 61339-0735, part of Block C, Plan M79NB, Parts 5, 6, 7, 8 of Plan 54R6262, Temiskaming Shores, the District of Temiskaming, for consideration at tonight's March 15th regular Council meeting. So thanks, Jennifer. So, moved by Councillor MacArthur, seconded by Councillor Jelly. Any questions? All in favor? That is carried. 15F was the Administrative Report CS 013-2022, the 2021 Annual Building and Stats Report. And I motion be resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report CS 013-2022, and that Council directs staff to post the 2021 Annual Report building permit fees on the city's website, and to make the report available to persons or organizations in accordance with the Ontario Building Code Act. So, mover and seconder, Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15G, Memo 005-2022 PW, the dissolution of the winter maintenance agreement between MTO for Highway 11B and Temiskaming Shores Remote Landing Road. And the motion reads, be it resolved, the Council for the City of Temiskaming Stores acknowledge receipt of Memo 005-2022 PW, titled Dissolution of Winter Maintenance Agreement, MTO Highway 11B and Temiskaming Shores Remote Landing Road for information purposes. So, mover and seconder for that motion, Councillor Jelly, seconded by Councillor Whalen. Any comments? That just didn't quite work out the way we'd hoped there, I guess, Mitchell there. So all in favor of this motion? That is carried. 15H, Administrative Report PW 007, 2022, the tender award for the liquid calcium. Make a motion be resolved the council for the city to historically acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 007, 2022, and the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Pollard Distribution Incorporated for the supply and delivery of liquid calcium in the amount of $53,430 plus applicable taxes for consideration at tonight's March 15, 2020 regular council meeting. So moved by Councillor Whalen, seconded by Councillor MacArthur. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15I is Administrative Report PW 008, 2022, the tender award for the line painting. Make a motion be resolved the council for the city to historically acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 008, 2022. The council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Miller Maintenance, a division of Miller Paving Limited, for the award of the 2022 center and edge line painting services contract at a unit cost of 39 cents per linear meter of line marking plus applicable taxes for consideration at tonight's March 15th regular council meeting. So moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor LaFerrier. Sorry, Patricia, I'll change that. Councillor Hewitt, second motion. So sorry, Dad. All in favor? That is carried. 15J. Administrative Report PW 009, the tender award for the 2022 asphalt patching, which we won't have any hole or potholes to patch, so we should be good, eh? So, motion be resolved the council for the city to historically acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report PW 009, 2022. The council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Miller Paving Limited for the award of the 2022 asphalt patching contract at a unit cost of $59.50 per square meter for 50 millimeter thickness and a unit cost of $107.10 per square meter for 90 millimeter thickness plus applicable taxes for consideration at tonight's regular council meeting. So, we're moving a second to this motion. Councillor Jelly, seconded by Councillor Whalen. So, any comments? All in favor? Oh, go, Councillor Jelly, sir.
Yeah, just one comment. I'm quite sure we will have some potholes to fill, but if we watch TV, we're certainly not #1 in the province, so that's a great thing. But I also want to caution residents that this is the spring of the year. There are potholes, so slow down. Potholes can damage cars, but if you slow down and take it easy, it won't. So just ask that people drive aware of what's there this year. Thank you.
Yeah, especially right now, if there's a water puddle there, slow down so you're not splashing people. And then secondly, there could be a pothole in the middle of that water pond there as well. So just slow down, take it easy there. So that's great. Anyway, all in favor of this motion? That is carried. 15K, the memo 006, 2022 RS, the Government of Canada, the Active Transportation Fund. I got two options here. I'll read them both here. Be resolved the council for the city to historically acknowledge receipt of memo 006 2022 RS. And first of all, the council approves the submission of an application to the Government of Canada for the Active Transportation Fund in the amount of $245,000 to pave the shoulders of Warwick Avenue and King Street south of Morrisett Drive to improve cyclist safety and increase the longevity of the new roadway service. Or the council approves the submission of an application to the Government of Canada Active Transportation Fund in the amount of $50,000 to undertake a planning study to provide design recommendations for proposed active travel infrastructure along Warwick Avenue, Main Street, Ferguson Avenue, and Lakeshore Road in Hillbury, as well as Lakeshore Road in Illiskert. Matt, do you want to explain, can we apply for both, or do we have the option of one or the other?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. The application would be for one of the two. I wanted to provide options for council. My recommendation is to apply for the larger amount to pave the shoulders. It's the most opportune time to do so this summer while that roadway is being resurfaced. With that said, I wanted to bring that forward to council for consideration since it wasn't discussed in our regular budget meetings in December. But that would be my recommendation. And if council is not in favor of doing so, I wanted to have council consider the smaller amount, which would be fully funded by the Government of Canada as an alternative, because we wouldn't want to skip this application round. It's important to help meet our goals for our active travel plan. Both of these options are supported in the active travel plan. It's just a matter of which is the best course of action at this point in time, and in my opinion it's to go for the larger share of funds that are available from the federal government.
Okay, we'll get a mover and a seconder for one of the motions, and we can open up for discussion. Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor LaFerrier. So, thoughts? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, I'd support the first option as recommended. It is our best value. But I'm just wondering, the second $50,000 project, is that a more construction detailed, or is that already in our active transportation plan?
So the proposed planning portion of this would be for design recommendations for items which are recommended in the active travel plan that we are looking for in the future. So for example, they've recommended in our active travel plan that we look at traffic calming measures on Ferguson Avenue in Haileybury. This would be an opportunity for us to engage with a consultant to give those actual designs to be able to be implemented in a future time period. Because we're already undertaking or will be undertaking a traffic study, we are proposing to tie in this additional funds to that study with one consultant who would again increase the amount of value that we're getting out of that contract. That's just one example. Another example is in Haileybury between Main Street and Rourke. The active travel plan recommends removing the slip lane that moves from northbound on Rourke to eastbound on Main. That would require some designs to be able to adequately change that to be safer. We would need to at some point have an engineer give us a design to be able to implement it. So again, we're just trying to fit the grant that's available to our needs as per the active travel plan as best we can with what's available to us.
Yeah, okay, I do agree with you. I think we're better to wait for our traffic study and expand that a little bit rather than take on a separate project. So yeah, I'm good with option one.
Other comments? Was that $245,000 going to cover the cost for actually paving those lanes, or a portion of it, or do you have, maybe you don't have any idea?
So based on the unit costs that we've looked at internally, that would provide for enough funds to be able to pave the remaining meter shoulder on each side of that road from Morissette south to the city boundary.
Okay. So we're looking at option one. We've got a mover and a seconder. Any other comments? All in favor? That would be carried. So. 15L, Administrative Report RS 007, 2022, the ICE resurfacer for the RFP award. And I motion be resolved the council for this evening to acknowledge receipt of Administrative Report RS 007, 2022, and the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Resurface Corporation for the provision of one electric ICE resurfacer in the amount of $162,300 plus applicable taxes for consideration at tonight's regular council meeting. So, do we have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Jelly, seconded by Councillor LaFerrier. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Jelly.
When would we be expecting that, Matt? Have you any idea?
It's about 15 or 16 months, eh?
So it wasn't quite that long. It was in the proposal that Resurface provided, it was a 12-month lead time from date of order to date of receiving. I'm hoping once this passes, I'll reach out and we'll do final discussions on what they expect for deliveries. But electric ICE resurfacers are gaining a larger and larger market share, so it's becoming more and more difficult to get them in a timely manner. But the current resurfacer that we have is fine for this time period, but it is at its end of its useful life, so that's why it's prudent to get this completed now and receive this sooner rather than later.
Okay, good. Councillor Jelly.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. My only thoughts are when it comes in, it would be a good news story. To get that out there, let people know that we are trying to go green and save energy. Yep.
Okay, good. Any other comments? All in favor of this motion? That is carried. That's all the new business. We're moving into the bylaws. I motion be resolved the bylaw 2022-048, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy treasurer for the city of Temiskaming Shores as Shelley Zubik, and repeals bylaw 2020-072. Bylaw 2022-049, being a bylaw to designate any plan of subdivision or part thereof that has been registered for 8 years or more, which shall be deemed as not a registered plan of subdivision for 712 Warwick Avenue. Bylaw 2022-050, being a bylaw to remove part lot control from part of block M, Part C, Plan M79NB, Temiskaming Shores, at roll number 5418-010-008-077.15 and 077.04. Bylaw 2022-051, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Pollard Distribution Incorporated for the supply, delivery, and application of liquid calcium chloride in the city of Temiskaming Shores. Bylaw 2022-052, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Miller Maintenance for the provision of roadway center and edge line painting services. Bylaw 2022-053, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Miller Paving Limited for the supply of labor, equipment, and materials for asphalt patching services at various locations within the city of Temiskaming Shores. And lastly, bylaw 2022-054, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Resurface Corporation for the supply and delivery of one electric ice resurfacer for the Don Shepherd Memorial Arena. These bylaws be hereby introduced and given first and second reading. So, we're moving and seconder for that motion. Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Jelly. All in favor? That is carried. Motion be resolved that bylaws 2022-048, 049, 050, 051, 052, 053, and 054 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporal seal affixed thereto. So we're moving to seconder. Moved by Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor LaFerrier. Any last comments? All in favor? That is carried. Scheduled meetings, the next one is set up for Tuesday, April the 5th, 2022, and the next one after that is Tuesday, April the 19th. We reached our second question and answer period. Has anybody got a question of council at this point? Any questions from council or staff? Not hearing or seeing any. We have a short closed session, so we've got a motion be resolved that City Council agrees to convene in closed session at 7:10 to discuss the following matters. A, the adoption of the March 1st, 2021 closed session minutes. B, under section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act, personnel matter identifiable individual for the Temiskaming Shores Public Library Board applications for seat vacancies. And C, under section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act, labor relations or employee negotiation for the organizational chart. So we're moving a second for that motion. Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor MacArthur. So all in favor? We are adjourned for the next 7 or 8 minutes. And